So let's be honest, you don't really understand reality. It is much preferable for you to think this way. If you think you understand reality, you're going to try to control things, and that doesn't feel good. So let's break it down. Why don't you understand reality, and why does this help you actually relax? Okay, so it's really a question of humility. If you're truly humble, you have looked through your thoughts enough to know that you don't know. And the only way you can really do this is by understanding that everything that you think and experience is on some level private to you, and everybody is having their own private experience. Now, on another level, we're collective, but on an individual level, you must look into this. You must recognize that whatever thoughts you're having, whatever feelings you're feeling, they are not an absolute certainty on top of reality. In fact, they're likely way off track. Now, your mind is good. Your mind is an excellent little tool for you to use. So this is not to say that you just stop thinking. I mean, good luck. You're not going to do that. Your mind is always thinking. That's its nature. But you, as the observer of that mind, need to recognize, and this is an art. This is not something that you just do once and you're done. You need to recognize that those thoughts moving through are just like a stream. They're just like passing over rocks, and they're hitting some little log jams occasionally, and they're banking against the edge. Sometimes they're smooth and flowing, but regardless, sometimes they're also just thinking great things. Sometimes they're fixing things for you, supposedly. Sometimes they're giving you clarity. Now, this is good use of the mind if you have clarity, but most of the time, most of your thoughts, if you're honest about it, are senseless and repetitive. And the only way you're going to truly understand this is by observing them and starting to shift your understanding of what you are as to the space between those thoughts, not the actual thoughts themselves. So how does this all come back to you don't understand reality, and if you don't understand reality, you're going to try to control things, and this is going to make you unhappy. So you're functioning through this description. You're functioning through your private description of reality, which is basically based on your past experiences. And those past experiences, if you look at it honestly and humbly, like I was talking about, you'll realize that they're statistically insignificant. Your version of reality is one little point of perception, and it's been fed all this phenomena, and you've grabbed onto it thinking it's true. And so you live the way you live, and you keep repeating the patterns that you repeat. So this is not an alive experience, because you're literally experiencing life from the past. So if you don't recognize this problem, you're not going to look for a solution. And the vast majority of us have not recognized this as a problem. We actually think that we know, and that's why we put it on others. That's why we argue with people. That's why we judge people. That's why we don't connect with people. That's why we don't connect with ourselves. That's why we have all this unnecessary suffering and disconnect. So the only problems in the world are literally this problem. Sure, there's a lot of situational things that need improving, but the foundation of that issue is the fact that we are stuck in what we think is true and real. Now, your mind is like a transmitter, but it functions within this world. It learns how to navigate this world as it thinks it knows how to do. But the real truth, the real clarity, is when your mind can connect to like a higher sense of self. And this higher sense of self is where new information comes in, which we've all experienced. You know this. We all know this. It's just learning to differentiate between what is what. And when clarity comes in, or something comes in that is much more kind and loving than what you were feeling or sensing before, then you know that your now frequency has been risen. But there's a magnetic tendency and a familiarity to stay in those things that aren't real and untrue. And this is where you get greed from. This is where you get lust from. You get all these things. And it's not to say that they're bad. They can be bad in the sense that they can hurt yourself and others. But it's more to say that they're taking up mind space and emotional space. You want to look at it more objectively and just looking at it practically and be like, man, when I'm stuck in this untrue stuff, I'm basically disconnected from reality. I'm basically trying to control things because I'm trying to feel better. I'm trying to look at what's right and what's wrong, and I'm trying to fix it. And man, the mind, your mind, my mind, all of our minds will do the best to justify this process for us, because sometimes it looks like it really works. And on some level, it does. This is not to say that the mind is this garbage machine. It's just that the mind is a fascinating, amazing machine, but it's full of garbage. It's a much better way of understanding it. So you're filtering through the garbage and you're taking the garbage out. That's what you're doing by realizing that everything going through your mind, for the most part, even the clarity is an appearance, but it's a much better appearance. It's a much healthier appearance. It's one that you want to give more attention to than all the other garbage. And it's not that clarity is garbage, but it just is still on that same level. You want to recognize that everything coming through the mind and the emotions is on a certain level. And your real understanding here is recognizing that you actually exist on another level from that. And that's what helps you move through this stuff. That's what helps you undo this mind. That's what helps you connect to reality. This is what helps you connect to others. Because life is very relational, and it's directly proportional how well you connect with others to how much you've undone this part of yourself. Because then you don't judge. You hold open space for people, and then they love you for it. Because you're not judging them, you're not assessing them, you're not seeing them as this body mind that is full of repetitive old traumas basically playing out. And some of those traumas are very subtle. Traumas can be extreme, of course, but some of them are just very subtle, and they're so normalized and they're so subconscious that they're just like little tiny blips in the reality. But when you sense those, because you haven't got as many of them going through yourself, you hold that open space for others. And then you share that space together because the vibration matches and the torch gets lit in each person. So this is like entirely helpful for you to do this. And not just in relational stuff. I'm talking about like everything. Like, this is how you're going to become more efficient and effective at everything you do. Your priorities are going to shift because you realize that most of your priorities are based on this stuff, this garbage in your mind. So you're going to undo a lot of those traumas. Because even if you're super motivated, for example, yeah, it might feel good, but it might be coming from a place of like, oh, I'm trying to prove myself. And sure, it works as fire. It gets you going. But how does your body feel? How's your experience going through this? It doesn't mean you need to stop what you're doing, but you want to recognize where the fire is coming from sometimes. Because that fire gets stored in your body, and you're going to be very successful, but you'll be very unhappy. You might have a lot of pain in your body. You might get some disease. You might have a bad relationship with your partner. Whatever. You want to be fueled from a different place, not from trauma. You want to be fueled from a place that is undone within you. And it's a state of becoming. It's a constant deepening. So think about it. What is it to be intelligent? Is intelligent trying to fix everything from within this very limited framework within your mind? Or is it to go beyond that and tap into a part of yourself that knows itself beyond all of this and that encompasses all of this? We can talk this theory all day, but until you experience this and notice this and pursue this, it just feels like you're looking through a recipe book, but you never got in the kitchen. So you want to really, really do this for yourself. No one else can do it for you. And if it feels intangible or confusing, you already know this process. You're just getting better at it. You're just like anything else. You're training yourself to be more aware. So don't make it a big deal. and know that you are fully capable of it, because every human being has the ability to do this. Now, it sure feels like some of us are much better at doing this than others. Maybe that's the case, but realistically, we all have this capacity. So you're going to undo yourself from your own set of twisted knowledge. And because of that, you're going to have a way better experience of reality in every way possible. So start it right now. Observe yourself while you're watching this. What are you thinking about me? How does your body feel? Notice these things. And if there's a contraction there, then release that contraction. Catch and release. On a practical level, it's entirely simple. But the only way you're going to actually do this is if you sort of understand the theory to some degree. Or else, why would you do it? Because it's going to go against what feels like your intuition. It feels like, oh, I should be contracting. Sometimes your intuition is true, but most of the time, or at least a lot of the time, depending on where you're at, your intuition is full of distortions, and you believe them and think it's your intuition. So just be aware of this. Be aware of how you're going to do whatever you can to argue against this process and feel justified to project, to react, to be unhappy, to judge, to do all these things. And this is by no means some way to feel guilty or to blame the person. This is just a discernment. This is not a judgment. This is recognizing the problem and then understanding there is a very viable solution to this. And the more you undo yourself, the more you relax your nervous system, which is basically your interface to reality. And then because of that, naturally, you start to understand what you are and who you are way more. To the point where this little body mind that you think you've been the whole time is like a small part of your reality at that point. It's always there, but it's not necessarily at all controlling you, and therefore not trying to control reality without you doing anything about it. So if you want the number one survival hack, it's this. You start to enjoy life, you start to relax into it, and you do what you can to make changes, but you know that the fundamental strategy that you have is to catch and release, and to, in a sense, prefer what is happening to you. Meaning you don't want to resist, because resisting is painful, and chronic resisting is suffering. Yes, I'll say it again, you still make changes when you need to, but you need to make way less changes than you think you do. Most of your life, you're a passenger. Occasionally, you're the driver. Think about it like that. All this stuff starts to fall away. These concepts, you're a passenger, you're a driver, that falls away. They're all relatively true on some level, depending on where we're at and what we're listening to and where we're coming from. But realistically, all those things fall away. It's probably more accurate to say you're the passenger and the driver, but even then, that's not true. So just enjoy this thing. Realize that it's a little bit of a labyrinth. Be patient and kind with yourself, and take your time. You know, it's going to take time. That's how it works. This is thousands of years of programming. This is not just your lifetime. You're getting this from way beyond you as well. And it's collective. It feels individual, but you just have a collection of universal qualities in your system that you're processing for the species. Think about it that way. Okay. Yeah, enough said. Yeah, hope you're enjoying this process. Honestly, I truly do. And when it's hard, just know that there's ebbs and flows and waves to this, and there's seasons. And it can't always stay hard.